seated. Good afternoon, everyone. We're here in the case of Acton versus, got this wrong this morning, Vernonia County School District. Who do we have to represent the school district? Okay, your names are?
Lexi and Crystal Maxwell.
Lexi and Crystal? Okay. And for Mr. Acton?
Elmo Edison. Renee Smith.
Elmo and Renee. Okay. And guess we need to address the jury. Everyone on the jury, please raise your right hand. Okay. Keep moving down. Okay, guys. Basically, what your job here today is to separate the true from the not so true. What you have to do is listen to each witness. You will judge the case based on the facts that are presented through the witness testimony, as well as you have to look at the witness's demeanor, and you give them credibility if you think they are being truthful, and you don't have to give them any credit if you think they're basically lying to you. The things that the lawyers say, not necessarily the questions, but the thing in opening statements and closing arguments are not considered the facts of the case. That's what they think the facts will show. So that's not actual evidence. The evidence is whatever's presented through oral testimony today. So I want you to pay close attention, take notes if you need to, and if you have any questions, you can ask me at any time. At this point, we will start the trial, and I believe the Acton's attorney would go first to opening statements.
Put your left hand on the Bible.
Well, actually, you don't have to swear her in. That's okay. You have to swear her in. She's an officer of the court.
In 1991, in a small town by the name of Vernonia, Oregon, there was a boy named James Acton who attended Washington Gray Middle School. Since the town had nothing but a logging company, sports were a big part of the town. In the fall of 1991, James decided to go out for football. He also planned on playing basketball and running track. Before anyone could participate in football, they were given a sheet to take home. A parent and the student had to sign the sheet. It stated that both the student and the parent consented to the random drug testing. James and his parents did not believe in the drug test and did not want their son to be tested. Wayne and Judy Acton thought it was a violation of James' privacy. They soon scheduled a meeting with Randy Altman, the principal of the school. James' parents told the principal that they objected to the consent form and weren't going to sign it. The school did not have any reason to believe that James used drugs and it violated his privacy. The reason, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, why we are here today is to fight for the right to James Acton and prove that drug testing was indeed in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to all those present in the courtroom. My name is Dr. Kristen Maxwell, and this is my co-lawyer, Lexi Navy, attorneys for the defense. Right now, you are about to see the presentation of the Acton versus Vernonia School District case. Young Mr. James Acton, a student athlete, was interested in playing for the school team. But in order to be eligible, he had to take and pass a drug test. James Acton refused to be drug tested, along with his mother and father, who disagreed too. The school had no choice but to exclude Mr. Acton from the team. We, the defense, believed the school had the right and was fully capable of doing so. If a student refuses to follow school rules and safety regulations, the school has the full right to partake in disciplinary actions.
At this point, we'll have the prosecution call their witnesses first.
Okay, I'd like to call Miss Acton to the stand.
Place your right hand on the Bible. Raise your left hand.
Left hand.
Left.
Left hand.
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth without omission.
I solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth without omission.
You take a stand. See that the witness stand?
Okay. Would you please state your name?
My name is Judy Acton.
How old are you?
I'm 32 years old.
What is your relationship to James?
I am his mother.
Do you have a good relationship with James?
Yes, James and I have a very good relationship.
May I ask, where are you from?
I'm from here in Oregon.
Did you play any sports during your childhood?
Yes, when I was in 7th grade, I played softball.
At any point during that time were you asked to do a drug test in any way or form?
I was never asked to take a drug test.
If you were given the drug test, what would be your opinion of it?
I would feel as if it was a severe violation of my rights and privacy and my Fourth Amendment.
How was James' behavior at home and school?
As his mother, he is very obedient to me and his father, and at school, his teachers thought of him as a wonderful student.
What sports did your son play?
He played football, basketball, and he ran track.
What was the sport that James went out for?
He mostly went out for football.
Did you expect to just pay fees and sign a slip for him to join the team?
That is all that I expected to do.
When he came home with that slip and told you that it was for the school to do random drug testing, what was the first thought that came to your head?
The first thought was that I believed that James and his teammates were all being violated of their Fourth Amendment rights and privacy.
Was there anyone in his life that persuaded him to use drugs?
No, there was not.
May I ask, did you or Mr. Acton ever come within James with drugs or alcohol?
No, we have never even brought alcohol into our house.
Do you think that it's unfair that you never had to be tested for drugs and your son was?
I think it is extremely unfair.
That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Hold on. The other side may have some questions for you. Take your time. Real lawyers can't find stuff either. There we go.
Do you care about your son, Mrs. Acton?
Yes, I do.
Were you aware that your son, James, really wanted to be on the team?
I was always aware of that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all, and 10 being most definitely and desperately, how much did you want your son to play on his school's football team?
I believe that would be a 9 because I want him to go out for I want him to make his dream come true and go out and follow his dream.
So if that's true, why didn't you want your son to be drug tested?
I believed it was violating his privacy and I did not want him to be violated.
There's nothing wrong with not wanting your son to participate in a drug test, even though it may not be against the Fourth Amendment. However, do you understand that James doesn't have to be drug tested if he doesn't want to? Do you understand that no one has to do anything they don't want to do? But that doesn't mean there won't be consequences.
Yes, I do.
So in this case, in response to your refusal to let James be drug tested, they wouldn't let him play on the team to protect him and other student athletes, correct?
That is what James told me.
That is all, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other questions for this witness? Okay, ma'am, you can step down. Thank you.
Could I please call James Acton to the stand?
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth without omission?
Would you please state your name?
James Acton,
How old are you?
13 years old.
Where are you from?
I'm from Vernonia, Oregon.
Did you play any sports?
Yes, I played football, basketball, and I ran track.
How old were you when you started playing football?
I was 6 years old.
So it would be fair to say that football is a big part of your life.
Yes.
You have been playing football for 7 years. Have you ever been asked to take a drug test before this?
No, just the simple physicals and forms to be able to play on the team.
But in the 7th grade, you were asked to take a drug test, correct?
Correct.
Who asked you to take the drug test?
My coach.
How did he ask you to take the drug test?
He told me that he gave me a permission slip and told me to have my parents sign it
When did you tell your parents about this?
that night.
What was their reaction to signing the permission slip?
They refused to sign the permission slip.
Why do you think that they refused to sign the permission slip?
They probably thought it was an unreasonable idea for a boy that's 13 years old to be able to take a drug test. Where would a 13-year-old even get drugs?
Thank you. That is all you have. How did you feel when your school said you had to take the drug test?
I thought nothing of it. I just thought that I thought nothing of it. I just thought that I'd be able to get my permission slip signed and that I'd be able to bring it back the next day.
Then why didn't you take the drug test?
My parents refused to sign it, and I have to obey my parents.
Did you know that kids at your school took drugs?
I did not know that.
Have you ever used or been offered drugs even out of school?
No, ma'am.
So you're saying if you took the drug test at the school, there would be no signs of drugs at all?
Nope.
Have you heard of the drug steroids?
Yes.
Do you know what they can do to the human body?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please state to me what they could do?
Are you sure you want me to?
Do you need to qualify the question? Can you ask the question in a different way?
Yeah.
Can you please explain to me what they could do concerning sports?
Oh, they can make a person if they use steroids and work out, it can make a person very strong and make them continue to work out without being, I guess, without stopping. And it can make them very good at the sport football.
Have you heard of O.J. Simpson?
Yes, I have.
Are you aware that he took drugs while playing?
Yes.
Did you know that your life could change into his? One day people all over the country love you, and 24 hours later a whole nation hates you. Just because you used something that you thought made you faster and stronger, but in reality it ruins people's lives?
I am aware of that. That's why I would never use drugs, and I never have.
Would you rather take a drug test that lasts for just a few minutes, or live a life full of drugs and disappointment?
Well, that's an interesting question because most people would take drugs and not get caught just because they could be stronger and faster, end up being the #1 player in the country, getting drafted. But I would decide to take a drug test and live a free life without drugs.
Thank you. That would be all, Your Honor.
You can step down. Or any witness?
Could I please call Jacob Roberts to the stand?
Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth without omission?
Would you please state your name?
Jacob Roberts,
How old are you?
30 years old,
Where are you from?
Washington, D.C.
What is your profession?
I am a social scientist for the Commission on Civil Rights in Washington, D.C.
So what brings you to Oregon?
I travel case to case that needs a civil rights expert.
When did you learn you wanted to major in civil rights?
When I was in 11th grade when a teacher inspired me.
Considering your profession, do you think that this incident with James Acton could interfere with any U.S. laws?
Yes, I do.
Could you please provide me with proof that this violates the Fourth Amendment?
Well, the Fourth Amendment says, the right of the people to secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. I think it is violating the Fourth Amendment because I haven't seen any proof that James has done any drugs so that they could search him.
But this says a search. Is a drug test considered a search in your part?
Yes, because they're searching him.
Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Okay. Cross? No questions, commission? Okay, sir, you may step down. Thank you. Have a safe trip back.
Could I please call Ricardo Rapunzel to the stand?
Have this morning?
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth without omission. Yes.
Would you please state your name?
Ricardo Rapunzel,
How old are you?
13,
Where are you from?
Portland, Oregon.
So what brought you to Veronia?
My dad was actually trying to move closer to his job.
Did you know James Acton?
Yes, we met in 2nd grade.
Did you have a good relationship with him?
We're best friends.
When did you meet each other?
In 2nd grade,
What types of activities did you guys do together?
we used to be on the same football team.
When did you start playing football?
In 3rd grade.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, Stewart to check out, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would be fair to say that football is a big part of your life.
Yes,
Have you ever been asked to sign a drug test forms for football?
yes.
When?
When we were asked to join the team.
Did you take the drug test?
No, I did not.
Were you aware that James Acton refused to take the drug test also?
No, I was not.
Of the players that you know, were any of them asked to take the drug test along with you?
Yes, they were.
Do you know, did any of them agree?
Most of them did, but some of them disagreed.
Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Questions for this witness?
Do you play a sport?
Yes,
Were you and your parents aware of the drug test?
yes, they were.
Why didn't you take the drug test?
Because my parents thought it was in violation of our privacy.
Did you know that your friend James Acton was struggling with the drug test and he refused to take it?
No, I did not.
Were you aware of the drug use in your own school?
No.
That will be all.
Sure, you can step down.
Could I please call Wesley Madison to the stand?
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about ready to give is the whole truth without omission?
Would you please state your name?
Wesley Madison.
How old are you?
27.
When you were younger, were you ever a troubled kid or student?
Yes.
Did you live in a bad part of town?
No.
Did you ever use drugs?
Yes.
Do you think that living in a bad part of town led to you using drugs?
No.
What led to you using drugs?
I was offered them when I was young and it looked like they were good, and so I decided to take them.
Do you think that living in a bad part of town made it easier to come into contact with drugs?
Yes.
Did anybody ever suspect of you using drugs?
My parents found out when I was in high school.
That is all. What is your profession?
I work at Subway and make sandwiches.
We understand that you were a reformed drug-using athlete. What was your life like when you were on drugs?
I was happy all the time.
Do you wish there was something that would have stopped you from taking those drugs that you did when you were younger?
Yes, there was a drug test at my middle school, stopped me from taking in more drugs. I eventually went to rehab when I was 20, but I still missed out on a lot of young years. My childhood is gone. Please just take the drug test, even if you're not hiding something. Think about the kids that are actually taking drugs that won't have to do the drug test if you don't have to.
That'll be all, Your Honor. I would like to call Ham Rodriguez to the stand.
Got a good morning, sir.
Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about ready to give is the whole truth without omission?
I do. Would you please state your name?
Ham Rodriguez,
How old are you?
27,
Where are you from?
Loganville, Georgia.
What brought you to Vernonia?
I found a good college in Oregon and later moved to the Veronian district.
What is your job?
A school board member.
What role did you have in the school board?
Set goals and hold votes.
You do a lot with the voters and parents?
Yes.
Did you ever hold a vote for random drug testing of athletes?
Yes.
Who were the voters of this election?
The school board.
Were the parents involved with the vote?
No.
Why did you not include the parents of the students and athletes?
Because we believe that the parents would disagree with our decision.
Do you happen to know James Acton?
Yes, he was a top student.
You think that James was suspected of using drugs?
Not at all, because he was a top student and was respectful to the peers and adults.
When were administrators allowed to do drug tests?
If they were suspected of using drugs.
Then why did you have to give James the permission slip? Because you voted on the drug test.
Because we voted on the drug test without the parents and wanted the parents to know we started drug testing, so the other school board members voted that everyone had to take it even if they were not suspected.
That's all, Your Honor.
Any questions for this witness? Okay, sir, you step down.
I would like to call Grace Kelly to the stand.
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth, God? Yes.
May you please state your name?
Grace Kelly.
Would you please state your age?
I'm 28 years old.
Where are you from?
Los Angeles, California.
What brought you to Vernonia, Oregon?
My parents moved a lot when I was little and decided to stay here in Oregon.
Where did you go to college?
The University of North Carolina.
What did you go to college to be?
I went to college to be a researcher
Who do you conduct research for?
for various law firms, but currently I'm hired by local law firm.
Why did you become a researcher?
I became a researcher because I wanted to fight for the rights of others.
Based on your research, is it ethical for schools to drug test 13-year-old students who possibly didn't know how to get a hold of drugs?
Based on my research, I found that it was wrong to drug test someone who was not suspected of drugs.
Schools that have adopted random student drug tester are hoping to decrease the use of drugs. Based on your research, does random drug testing even work? Your Honor, may I have my research read from an article that she found?
Yes, she's qualified as an expert.
Random drug testing in schools does not reduce student substance use. A national survey of high school students concludes. The study found students who attend schools where they feel treated with respect are less likely to start smoking cigarettes or marijuana. Students who attend schools where they feel respected, who have already started smoking, else stop their smoking at a lower rate or quit smoking when they're younger.
What did drug testing lead students to believe?
Students felt like they were not trusted or underestimated by adults. This just increased the use of drugs because the students started using drugs and became what adults thought of them as drug users.
That's all, Your Honor.
Any questions? Okay, so, thank you. Any other witnesses? Okay, now that closes the portion of your case. Time for you guys to present your evidence.
Your Honor, may we please call Dr. Isaac Washington to the stand?
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about ready to give is the whole truth without omission.
Yes.
Will you please state your first and last name for the jury?
My name is Dr. Isaac Washington.
What is your profession?
I'm a principal.
How long have you been a principal?
15 years.
What are the sports activities that your school provides?
My school participates in the sports events of football, soccer, baseball, track, and cross country.
What made you start administering drug tests?
Kids were bragging about how the school was helpless towards drug usage. And because of this, the drug usage started rapidly increasing since students were saying that the school couldn't stop it.
What type of drug test was issued?
We issue urine testing.
Do you have kids?
Yes,
How old are they?
12 and 15.
So can you see why a parent would disagree to have their child drug tested?
I do not understand why that a parent would dislike drug testing unless the child was actually involved in using drugs. But in that case, this is meant to help them, so therefore there is no cause for disapproval.
Were you aware that there were drugs being sold and used at your school?
It is for this very reason that I started drug testing.
Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Any questions for this witness? No? Sir, you can step down. Thank you.
Your Honor, may we please call Victoria Violet to the stand?
Sure.
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth without omission?
Yes.
Please state your name for the jury.
Victoria Violet.
What do you do for the Vernonia School District?
I am the superintendent.
What is the purpose of the superintendent?
I oversee the schools throughout the county.
Were you aware of the drug use in the Vernonia School District?
Yes, it was highly increasing.
How long has the Vernonia School District been issuing random drug tests?
We have been issuing random drug tests for the 6 years that I have been the superintendent.
Did the school board notify the parents and guardians about the random drug test in advance?
Yes, we sent home a notification that we would be drug testing random students in our weekly newsletter.
Do you have any children of your own?
No.
If you did, would you feel comfortable with having your children participate in these random drug tests?
I feel that it would be necessary to protect them.
How do you feel personally about these drug tests?
I feel that these precautions are important. We have never had any complications with these safety measures that have been added to our students' protection.
That'll be all, Your Honor.
Okay. Any questions? No questions for this witness? Ma'am, step down.
May I please call Winter Rush to the stand?
Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about ready to give is the whole truth without omission?
Will you please state your first and last name for the jury?
Winter Rush.
What is your occupation?
I'm a researcher for the CAE law firm.
What areas do you research in?
I research in medical and law or constitutional research.
Do you believe schools have the right to randomly drug test students?
Yes, I do believe that schools have the right to randomly drug test their students. When they drug test the students, it ensures the safety of all of the children and adults. It prevents some athletes from getting themselves and others around hurt, because drugs do take a toll on moods and their users it can cause anger or make it difficult to focus.
Why is it important to issue drug tests?
Like I said, this can eliminate any drug use on the school campus and help increase the safety of the children attending the school. Drugs mess with your mind and can very well cause kids to do what no one would ever expect from them. These drug-using kids can bring weapons to school, threaten others, sell drugs on campus. The drugs can make them feel horrible about themselves, and they're capable of so much more. Also, in sports, it is like cheating for a student to take performance drugs while the others have to work to perform well. And after continually taking the drug because it gives them attention, and they want to continue taking the drug because it gives them attention, and they can become popular and everyone loves how they perform.
What impact do drugs have on the health of people, particularly middle school students?
Drugs can impact middle school students in numerous ways. It can damage the cerebellum, a section of the brain that controls movements. It can also shrink the hippocampus, another part of the brain, and cause memory loss. Plus, drugs can cause mood swings throughout the day, and sometimes blackouts or unconsciousness occur to the children. So if a kid is driving when this occurs, they can wreck and be seriously injured, or the situation can even be fatal. A few other dangerous effects are these: children could purposely harm themselves or commit suicide. These situations are becoming more common in the U.S., and kids are being put under peer and parent pressure and are being encouraged to be involved in drugs.
How important are these parts to the brain as they relate to functioning normally?
The cerebellum is a crucial part of the brain. It contains only 10% of the brain's volume, but has 50% of the brain's neurons, which are nervous system cells of the brain. So without a proper functioning cerebellum or hippocampus, students will have trouble moving their body and will have difficulty remembering.
Are there any cases where this depression, self-harm, and/or suicide has occurred as a result of using drugs?
Yes. Taylor Houghton was a 17-year-old baseball player in Plano, Texas. He took anabolic steroids. He began feeling depressed and thought less of himself. His feelings about himself eventually became too discouraging for him to bear, and he hung himself.
Was Taylor Houghton ever given a drug test?
No, sadly he was not.
Could this death and devastation been prevented by being drug tested?
Yes, most likely.
So we understand that you've conducted some surveys. Can you explain to us what data you have set out to collect and what were the results?
I set out to discover how commonly children use drugs and how easily it is to get the drugs. In one general survey, I found out that 40% of the students I asked knew a classmate that sold drugs. From a few other surveys I have found that 60% or more teens say that their high schools are drug infected, and 50% of another group of students that I asked said that there was a spot on or near school grounds where classmates could go to use drugs during the day. And also, about 1,400 kids die each year from drug abuse.
Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Cross, any questions? Any questions for this witness? Nope. Okay, step in. Any other witnesses?
Yes, we do.
May I please call Elizabeth Walker to the stand?
Please select your hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Will you please state your first and last name for the jury?
Elizabeth Walker.
What is your occupation?
I'm a researcher.
What area or areas do you research in?
I research in civil and medical issues.
So, who do you research for?
I research for Maxwell & Maxwell Law Firm.
As an expert professional researcher, do you agree that drug tests should be issued?
Yes.
Many people, like in this Acton versus Vernonia School District case, find the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution to be very controversial. To help clear up some confusion, could you tell us what exactly the Fourth Amendment states?
The Fourth Amendment states the following. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against
Yes, ma'am.
against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Based on what you just said, was it against the Fourth Amendment to have students drug tested after every parent in the county was warned about the random drug testing and permission slips were sent home verifying where the test would be conducted and what type of test they would conduct?
No, it is not. The Fourth Amendment does permit searches and seizures that are considered reasonable. You and your property can be searched if the people searching you have a probable cause to believe that searching you would be beneficial, or the particular circumstances justify the search without a warrant first being issued. Furthermore, this only applies to a search if a person has a legitimate expectation of privacy. The test did not violate this amendment because the school officials had a reason to believe that there was illegal drug use among the students and wanted to make sure that everyone in the school system was safe.
So aren't body searches, pat-downs, and metal detectors at the airports very much like drug testing in the sense that you are required to be searched in order to board a plane to make sure no one is carrying weapons or other illegal items on the plane that would put other passengers in harm's way?
Yes. In the 1970s, there was an increase in violence on board planes. This worried pilots and passengers, and the court decided they would let the airports search their passengers. This relates to drug testing in the sense that school officials saw that there was illegal drug use, and they decided to act upon it and test students so that the whole county would be safe.
So isn't drug testing the same deal? You're searched so that you don't influence or harm anyone else at school or during sports.
Yes.
So don't they also have similar consequences? If you refuse to get searched, you are prohibited to board the plane. If you refuse to be drug tested, you are prohibited to play on the school team, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How is it possible for body searches to be legal and fair without controversy, but drug tests are not?
It's not.
Thank you, that'll be all.
Any questions for this witness? Step in, thank you. Any further witnesses? No more witnesses? Okay, are you ready for closing argument? Okay, well, defense goes first.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I would like to thank you for your attention this afternoon. It is important that the school defendant experience a fair hearing from his or her peers. In this case, my client, the school that James Acton attended, refused to proceed in regulations, Vernonia, Washington's grade school. It is now up to the state of Oregon to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the Vernonia, Washington grade school did not commit any crimes. And the school was fair and just wanted to help keep the student body safe by excluding Mr. Acton from the team. It is clear today through all testimonies given that to the state hasn't met their burden of proof. Thank you for your time.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it has been concluded that the school has not been playing a fair game. First off, the school member was thinking of himself and not the parents and students. He purposely did not invite the parents just so he could get his way. He believed that the parents would disagree with his decision. Things like drug tests are to be introduced to the parents because they are the ones that are in control of their kids, giving them the right to vote on things like this. Second of all, it has been shown that the school has underestimated the minds of these students. Students felt like they were not trusted by adults to do the right thing. The researchers stated that the drug test increased the use of drugs by students. Because adults thought that it increased the use of drugs, the school board members stated that they did drug tests even though they were not suspected. They only did this because signing a permission slip was their way of telling the parents and students. Administrators were only allowed to do the drug test unless the student was suspected of using drugs, but they went against their word and did it anyways. The school did not play by the rules. James Acton was a good kid, lived in a nice neighborhood, had a good relationship with his family, and was a straight-A student. There was no reason for him to be suspected of using drugs. Unlike James, the former drug user was in a different environment, causing him to do wrong. The former drug user lived in a bad part of town with easy access to drugs and had a very confusing relationship with his parents. All of this information, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, leads us to conclude that the case was indeed in violation of the Fourth Amendment and to James and James' parents.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, now you've heard all the evidence presented in the case. It's your duty to go out and deliberate until you come back with a verdict one way or the other. Remember, the only thing that you should consider as evidence is what the witnesses said on the witness stand. What the lawyer said in an opening and closing argument does not render or factor into your decision, okay? So you can go out and deliberate. Court is at recess. Did you guys pick a jury foreman or no? Got spokesperson? Okay. And ma'am, did you guys reach a verdict? Can you publish your verdict? Tell us what it is. Either way, you might want to get on camera and get a microphone so everybody can hear you. There we go. There you go.
We decided that the school board won the case.
Okay, can you tell us why?
Because we thought they had very good arguments and they had a lot of evidence to back why they had the drug tests, like the reasons why they administered drug tests, and like how they thought it would help, and that they really didn't mean harm to the students. And it wasn't a thing about they just wanted to do it to help protect the students, not not that they didn't trust them. It was just they just wanted to help them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice.
you. Answer yours.